Hello, everyone. My name is Travis Shingledecker, and I'm a senior director at Aperio Philanthropy. Aperio is a nonprofit consulting firm with a vision for a world in which everyone can thrive. We exist to unleash the power of communities to drive change by dramatically expanding resources for nonprofits. Day to day, we work alongside community leaders and fundraisers to develop simpler, faster, and smarter ways to generate revenue for nonprofit missions. Our client services provide strategic advisory, hands-on support, and embedded fundraisers to organizations nationwide. As a firm created to drive change, we are thrilled to be hosting this event series with New York University. For the past several years, we've been facilitating conversations among thought leaders about the role of philanthropy in driving change and solving complex societal challenges. Today's event is a continuation of our series on expanding your donor community, where we'll focus in on the topic of collective giving. It's my pleasure to now introduce our co-host, Michelle D'Amico.
Thanks, Travis. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle D'Amico, and I'm the Director of Continuing Education and Public Programs at the NYU SPS Center for Global Affairs, or CGA. I'm delighted to welcome you to today's conversation on such a timely and important topic. Before I turn this over to our impressive speakers, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the Center for Global Affairs. Since its founding, our goal at the CGA has been to prepare global citizens to make a positive impact in the world. We do this through a variety of activities, including our 2 graduate programs, one in global affairs and another MS in global security, conflict, and cybercrime. We also offer a wide variety of skills and knowledge-based continuing education courses and offer public events such as this that expand upon topics covered in our classroom. We are very proud to be home to the George H. Heyman Jr. Program for Fundraising and Philanthropy. Through our open enrollment courses, on-site intensives, and certificate in fundraising, we offer professionally oriented educational options for those looking to enter or grow within the fundraising field. Courses are taught by practitioner faculty who bring their vast experience, expertise, and networks to the classroom. We'll send out additional information about our programs following today's conversation, so please feel free to reach out with any questions you may have. And now I'm delighted to introduce today's moderator, Colvin Hedgepeth. Colvin is Director of Client Services at Aperio Philanthropy, where she supports nonprofits in building their relationship-based fundraising programs. Colvin is a career fundraiser fueled by connecting people to natural places and protecting our planet. Prior to joining Aperio, Colvin worked at organizations such as Colorado Outward Bound School, Blue Sky Fund, and the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee. She also serves on the board of the American Hiking Society. And now, without further ado, I'd like to turn this over to Colvin for today's discussion.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And hello, everyone. Really excited that you all are joining us for this conversation. As we all know, in today's landscape, many nonprofits are thinking about their revenue strategies with fresh eyes. Some are working on retaining loyal donors, some are looking for new donors, and almost everyone is thinking about diversification, sustainability, and resiliency. Really, what everyone is asking is, where are our people? Who are the people, funders, companies, and communities who share our vision for the future? Who are the people that hope for what we hope for? What I know from my years of frontline fundraising and work with nonprofits is this: your people are out there. There are people in your database that you haven't, who are ready to go deeper, and people that you haven't met yet that are looking for ways to get involved with organizations just like yours. Collective giving is a powerful approach to engaging existing and new donors alike in a way that is authentic, exciting, and meaningful. Collective giving is the practice of individuals pooling their resources to support causes they care about. It's a model that reinforces the impact of every single contribution, fosters community engagement, and ensures that diverse voices are influencing funding decisions. So our panel today will explore collective giving through 2 different approaches. On the one hand, we'll have giving circles that are created by nonprofits, and then on the other, we'll have giving communities created and led by donors themselves. So I am very excited to introduce this distinguished panel for our conversation today. Jessica Graham is the co-founder of Align Point Ventures, where she brings more than 20 years of experience in the philanthropic sector. She has raised tens of millions of dollars for organizations in education, mentoring, and social services. Jessica began her nonprofit career in New York City, and her experience ranges from building capacity for early stage nonprofits all the way to leading national campaigns. Additionally, Jessica is the co-founder and founding president of Impact 100 Houston. Now in its fourth year, the organization has awarded over $900,000 in grant funding to the local community. Thank you for joining us, Jessica. Next, we have Beth Groves. Beth has served as the Director of Individual Giving for the American Red Cross since 2019. She has previously served in fundraising and capacity building roles for the Tennessee region of the American Red Cross, the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, and Silver Lining Mentoring in Boston, Massachusetts. Beth is a graduate of Sewanee, the University of the South, and also Harvard Divinity School. Thank you, Beth. Next, we have Ryan Van Meter, who is the Director of Principal Gifts at City Harvest, where he has worked for nearly a decade in various fundraising positions and raising more than $100 million to feed New Yorkers, which is an incredible feat. With nearly 25 years of fundraising experience, Ryan has raised hundreds of millions of dollars for nonprofits, candidates, and elected officials in Chicago and New York. He is a life member of the LGBT Fund of the Chicago Community Trust and an active member of the Association of Fundraising Professionals New York City chapter, serving as a member of the Government Relations Committee. And last but certainly not least is Joy B. Webb. Joy is the founder of the Circle of Joy Giving Circle, which is now celebrating 18 years of impact. Under her leadership, this intergenerational circle has mobilized more than $300,000 in resources, not only investing in Black youth in Metro Atlanta, but also teaching the next generation the art and practice of giving. Through her work with Community Investment Network, Joy has been at the forefront of collective giving, helping organizations across the country channel more than 15 million into communities of color. Thank you all for being here, and I'm so impressed by the expertise that you are bringing to the table. To get us started, I would love to talk about the lens each of you is bringing to our conversation today. So from your perspective, what is collective giving and why does it matter? We're going to start with Joy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for asking that question. Collective giving to me is about community power in action. It's when people come together, they bring their time, their talent, their treasure, their truth, and their testimony. I can talk about a lot of T's, but that's enough for now. And they pull their resources to go toward the causes that they feel are necessary. So it's not about isolation. It's not about an individual person. It's about the collective. And for me, it matters because it shifts that narrative of what philanthropy is. It's no longer a wealthy individual or reserved for the wealthy or the institutions. It becomes something that everybody can participate in. So it's for everyday people doing extraordinary things. And it allows people to see themselves as philanthropists, as decision makers, as change makers for the community that they can build trust with and build relationships with. And so that's why I think it's important.
Thank you so much, Joy. And I'm sure that perspective of just donors really having a role and a voice is something that is so needed in today's current landscape. So I would love to hear from Beth next on your perspective.
Sure. Joy said it so well. I'm bringing a couple of lenses to today's conversation. So first, through my current seat as Director of Individual Giving at the Red Cross, from which I have the privilege of supporting a network of loyalty circles and affinity groups. My other lens is as a former staff member of a community foundation that had a number of collective giving groups, a women's fund, a group of young philanthropists called the Tomorrow Fund, and other kind of caused-based collective giving groups. And in each of those experiences have found that collective giving not only bonds individuals to an organization or to a cause, but to one another. And those bonds matter. They're what really build strength and staying power and provide additional supports of connection that can outlast the churn of staff turnover that those of us who are within a nonprofit know very well. That's a real challenge for development offices. So in that way, collective giving really is a force multiplier and shows greater impact than any one of us alone as philanthropists or as staff members or as volunteers can create alone.
Thank you, Beth. I love that phrase, force multiplier, as it relates to collective giving. Jessica, would love to hear your thoughts next.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I think that, everything that has already been said, and my lens really comes from my experience working for nonprofits, and then also starting Impact 100, so starting a giving circle here. And in addition to democratizing philanthropy, I think it's an opportunity to bring people to help educate donors about the nonprofit sector, and also to build trust between donors and the nonprofit sector. So really it's, everything that's already been said, and education.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jessica. All right, Ryan, round us out.
So I think everybody has said everything that should be said. So I'll just add a couple of bits. The one thing for me that really stands out is I almost like to think of collective giving as community giving or community building, because you're really bringing people together. And I think the value of that, in addition to everything that my colleagues have shared, is that it's also an opportunity to expand your network. Because if you're bringing people together who are like-minded and who are engaged, part of the ask and part of the way that you want to engage those folks is to have them bring members of their network into the community and into the collective giving. So I think it's a real opportunity for nonprofits to expand the pie, to be able to grow their network. The other thing I think alternatively is it's also an opportunity for nonprofits to thank and recognize a lot of their supporters. I think if there's a collective campaign that a community or a group is working on together, the nonprofit or the organization can promote that and can promote that success and really help those individuals not only feel good about what they have done, but recognize that more broadly. And so I think it's a nice recognition opportunity as well for nonprofits.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. And really excited that we have kind of both sides of the coin in terms of the two different perspectives. We're going to dig in a little deeper on more of the donor side at first. And so Jessica and Joy would love to hear about your stories as founders and leaders of giving communities, and what you've really learned from that role. So Jessica, maybe you can kick us off on that one.
Sure. So we launched Impact 100 Houston during COVID. I had come across a lot of amazing giving circles on the fundraising side, and it was something that we felt like we could build upon in Houston. What we found is, touching on what Ryan said, it helps build that sense of community. So especially when we launched, people were really looking for ways to do something positive and to do it together. So it really helped bridge something that was lacking a lot at that time, I think, for us. And we've learned so much from that experience. I mean, the first one is we weren't sure if it was going to take off. I mean, starting something is scary, right? So for any nonprofit starting it, or if you're going to start your own, our goal was 100 women to come together, and it was 188. So, and we figured even if we find 30 women, we're still going to engage in this process and give away. So even if you fail, you're still succeeding. But also the amount of nonprofits that exist in every community that are solving problems, helping them come together. We have grantees that have worked together afterwards. We have women who have continued giving to the nonprofits that we donated to. So I think really people are hungry to learn more. They want to be engaged in philanthropy. And we had a lot of women who were hesitant at first who thought, well, what do I know? What can I provide? I can write a check, but I don't have an expertise. And what we reminded them is that you have a lived experience, you have things that matter to you, and that is enough. You have as much a perspective as anybody else has, and your voice really does matter. So it really became something that was empowering, and it can be if you allow the donors into your mission.
Thanks, Jessica. I definitely think we're in a moment where people are craving that community and doing the collective good. So excited for these insights. Joy, what can you share from your learnings as a founder?
Oh, so many learnings. 18 years. We started off a long time ago, many, many moons ago. And it started off because I was just volunteering somewhere and I heard about a giving circle. Didn't know what a giving circle was, had no clue, but this young man was telling me about a collective or a organization called Community Investment Network, which was a network for giving circles. Um, at that time, it was African American and donor of color giving circles. And the Leo in me was cocky and said, I got friends and I can do this. I probably couldn't even pronounce the word philanthropist like off the tongue at that point. But I had grown up in a community where we were always giving, and I thought, you know what? Let's look at this. I know that the corporate America job that I have to give a certain percent to some organization, and I have no idea what they're doing with that. What would it look like if I was intentional and I was strategic with a collective group of people? So some of my friends and family trusted me way back when and were just like, okay, Joy, we're gonna roll with you. We don't know how long this is gonna last. And now 18 years later, here we are. But um had the opportunity to meet some people in that network, the Community Investment Network, which was great because they already had a structure. They already had people who were doing it in other cities besides Atlanta. And so I was able to use those resources and meet friends, like-minded people to see how they were doing, what was working for them. So I didn't have to reinvent the wheel, which was not something I was trying to do anyway. But what I've learned over those 18 years is one of the first things I learned that somebody from the network told me was it's a giving circle, but it's also a forgiving circle. This is volunteer. This is not a job for anybody. Everybody is doing lots of different things. This is part of their giving profile, as a matter of fact. So you have people that are giving to churches and PTAs and taking care of families, whether that's they're in the sandwich community where they have children and they have parents that they're taking care of, but they're doing a lot of different things. So this is just a piece of it. So you have to be forgiving. You have to be agile. Also building trust. You all are pooling your resources together, and it takes time to build that trust. It's not just a microwave society where everybody believes that, you know what, Joy, you said you want to do this, and I'm going to give you this money, and you go and be married. No, we got to build this trust. So it takes some time to do that. And that also builds sustainability. Once you have that trust model, with your partners that you're working with the nonprofits, and with your actual inner circle, that is very, very important. It also, one of the most important lessons is that you have to find joy in it. No pun intended, but it has to be fun. It cannot be another job. Everybody has enough jobs. So we got to make sure that we have fun with that. And when we're listening to our giving circle, like no one is left behind. We're going to bring in all the voices. There's not in the circle. We are really trying to learn from one another. And we are a collective. So we have a North Star, but we want to hear how we can all be of service to our community and to our family that we have now. That 18 years, you're pretty much family now. We're stuck together. So that's what I've learned over the last 18 years.
Absolutely. Both of your stories are so inspiring, and hopefully people are walking away ready to start some giving circles in their own community. Jessica, you've already shared some of the pro tips and insights that you gained. What advice would you have for others that might want to follow in those footsteps?
I think one of them is see what already exists, and learn from others. So find a good mentor. Like Joy said, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. A lot of people are doing really great things already. Learn from them. The Giving Circle community as a whole is so generous. It is largely volunteer based. People are not paid to do this work. It is something that they are really invested in and that they want to spread and help others do. So I would say that's number one. Number two is see what exists in your community on the ground. And are you trying to do something different, or is there somebody you want to join with? Um, and what makes your giving circle unique to that? So if you do, is it targeting a certain cause? Is it more broad than that? Is a specific area? But think through what is important to you and those around you that are starting it with you, because nobody starts it alone. I mean, I had two fantastic co-founders that did this work with me. We built a board early on, thinking about different skill sets, who were connectors, and making sure that we were really going to be representative of the community. So yeah, that would be my advice. And do it and have fun, because it is so rewarding.
Yeah, I love that suggestion. We at Aperio say often work smarter, not harder, and kind of going back to Beth, the force multiplier. It's like, can you join forces with an existing giving circle and bring, new people and new energy to it? So shifting our focus to like the nonprofit side, Joy, I'm curious, how do you recommend that nonprofits engage with giving societies?
I recommend that they actually engage in a way that is transparent and understanding that we can be true partners. This is not about us just being funders. What do you need? I oftentimes our giving circle goes in and asks, "What do you need?" Because it's more than the dollars. We are here for that time, talent, treasure, testimony, using our social ties, and really trying to build a partnership. We want this to be authentic and be transformational, not just transactional. So in order to do that, we have to kind of, once again, goes back to that trust model, right? We got to learn how to build trust and engage, and give us some truths, right? It's not all, you don't have to be shiny and bright. We know that it's difficult out there. We know that it's hard work and heart work. And so we're here to listen, and we're here to work together to be a partner. We want to be able to help you, maybe with some solutions that, you oftentimes think, okay, I got to go to a foundation. I got to give them all these like reports and all this stuff. Sometimes the giving circle is giving circle, giving society, and giving collective might be a little bit more relaxed, where we are really just trying to hear what we can do to help service. And also do some co-thinking, co-design. And a lot of times, if you get a good group and you all build the trust, you'll find that you have lots of resources, because like I said, it's everyday people doing extraordinary things. So you could have an accountant, you could have a lawyer, you could have, you could extend your board, you could extend your advisory, you could extend your volunteer base, just by getting to know the people, to build that real relationship. So I think you need to look at it more so as, how can we really build a relationship that can be sustainable, because that's what makes lasting impact.
Appreciate both of your insights. I've been taking notes on the side, and there's so many little nuggets that are standing out. Hard work and heart work. Even if you fail, you're still successful. For Giving Circle. So really appreciate, sharing your perspective. Would love to segue now into the nonprofit side of things and hear from Ryan and Beth. Both of you represent organizations that have facilitated collective giving through giving circles. Tell us about your programs, and let's start with Ryan, since you're off mute already, ready to go.
Got a head start of getting off of mute because I struggled earlier to get off of mute. Happy to go first. I think one of the things that I want to ground everyone in is that I know we talk a lot about these community and collective giving as a way to democratize philanthropy and getting lower dollar donors engaged, but in its original form, boards of directors are collective giving. It's an example of like-minded individuals coming together, pooling their resources to help lead organizations. And so I don't want to overlook the people that are at the top of the pyramid. At City Harvest, I categorize our, giving circles and collective giving into three different categories. One is, of course, the leadership groups, as I just mentioned, a board of directors. We have a very successful young professionals fundraising committee called Generation Harvest. We also have a food council, which is a lot of the hospitality and food representatives, chefs, and otherwise in New York City, who also come together and utilize their resources to help City Harvest and our mission to feed New Yorkers experiencing food insecurity. The second group are ones that we formed internally, which were really related to donor giving levels. So we created giving societies. We have a Harvest Circle, we have a 1982 Giving Society, and a Leadership Society, which really helps us both internally think about how we interact with and work with these groups. But more specifically, back to what I talked about earlier, it's an opportunity for us to recognize those donors. And so we have special logos and special letterhead that we use for those giving societies when we communicate with those donors. We also have maybe like an annual reception, or we'll host volunteer opportunities at our food rescue center where members of those committees and their families can come out and volunteer. So again, it's them with their peers coming together. It does also work internally because as a way of encouraging donors as they're moving up in the moves management system. So let's say we've got a donor who's making a 75 annual contribution, and we can share with them what the Leadership Society is. It's for donors that are giving $100,000 or more and have a bigger impact on our work. It might encourage donors to consider giving at a different level. So I think that's the second way, is like internally created giving societies. But the third are really more related, I think, and the way that we use them are more identity-based groups. So, for example, I had the fortune back in 2019 of creating an LGBTQ circle and doing an annual event where we had members of the community coming together to do a volunteer event, which benefited then some of the soup kitchens and food pantries that we take food to that serve high populations of that community. So it really brought together LGBT board members, food council members, staff, volunteers, donors, and it was able to help us get additional resources to then support members of the community within the Bigger City Harvest family.
Really helpful overview, and appreciate that emphasis on the recognition and engagement. And I already see some questions coming through related to that we'll hopefully dig in more on. So thanks, Ryan. Beth, what can you tell us about your collective giving program?
Yeah, my organization has a number of giving circles, and I'll focus on one. The strongest and most visible of those is the Tiffany Circle. It's an example of what Ryan was just speaking about around identity-based groups. So the Tiffany Circle is a women's giving society that launched in 2007, I believe, in a handful of our regions in various metro areas. And now, years later, is a nationwide network with over 1,400 members, all women. Members each give $10,000 or more annually. There's a national governing body called the Tiffany Circle National Council, comprised of members from around the country. And there are local chapter leadership structures as well, so that this really does feel organic, locally led, volunteer led, rather than top down. But it took us a long time to get here, right? This is not something that can be created overnight. What I see about the Tiffany Circle that stands out, and maybe what differentiates it even from some of our other giving societies internally, is that there is a really clear mission and vision, a reason for being for this group, and a clear identity. So what Brian was just speaking about in terms of logos and messaging, that has been very important for us as well, to have that visual identity that underscores a shared purpose, and really kind of binds this group as a collective. Another key piece of the model of the Tiffany Circle that has helped it be so successful is recruiting and engaging community champions from the outset. So I, as a Red Crosser, can make asks all day for women to join this group. But when a peer approaches you and says, "This is something I'm passionate about, here's why it matters, please join me, come alongside me in this mission," that's a far more powerful message. So that was a key part of our launch of this group initially, was identifying from our existing donor base who are those passionate philanthropic women in some of these key communities where we want to build, who we think will partner with us in a volunteer capacity to build this from the ground up. And then as the circle has grown, really continuing to lean in on that volunteer-led or volunteer staff partnership model within those groups has been key in having each chapter really take on a life and feel of its own, feel organic, feel homegrown. It's been key to success, and not only financially, of course, but so that those groups can also advocate on behalf of the organization, provide that volunteer leadership, that time, talent, treasure trifecta that Joy was referring to.
Awesome. Thanks, Beth. I love, again, going back to your force multiplier, just thinking of the champions and how that really grows the network and brings more people in. So, Ryan, you talked a bit about the, community building aspect of collective giving. So thinking of those organizations that are just getting started on this journey, what advice do you have for building the community?
Definitely. A few things. First of all, is you need to identify kind of the elements that are a part of what you're going to be doing. That's the audience that you're trying to build community around. And specifically in the case of a nonprofit, we want to have an idea of, what kind of an outcome that we're hoping to achieve if we have a campaign or an effort that we want this community to come together around. And then specifically, you need to talk to the target audience of people that you want to bring together to ask for their input before just deciding that you're the expert. I think Beth had referenced this as well, as like really engaging people that are part of the community and asking them what they're interested in, getting those key figures to be part of the campaign. And I'm happy to give a brief example of one that I'm super proud of having formed, if we have time. Great. City Harvest has a long-standing kosher food program and a halal food program. During COVID, my husband is Muslim, and we were hosting iftar events and dinners in our home during Ramadan. It's a typical thing when you break the fast after a full day of fasting. You have a dinner with your friends, and it's quite a celebratory thing. And as New Yorkers, we celebrate all of the things. And as someone who was hosting an iftar dinner, I had no idea what it was, and so was asking my friends who were there, Muslims, what does this mean? Why do we do this? What is Ramadan about? What does it mean? And one of the tenets of Ramadan for the Islamic community is the idea of giving back and feeding your neighbors, which is exactly the mission of City Harvest. And so someone suggested, well, why doesn't City Harvest do an iftar fundraiser and do some work and bring that community together? So I went back to the office and spoke to my colleagues who were doing work with our halal food giving program, and they said that there was a definite need for more halal proteins, which are very expensive typically and are tough for us to get donated. Typically, City Harvest, we rescue food that would otherwise go to waste, and so it's all donated. But to get donated halal protein is pretty challenging. So we have a Muslim husband, Muslim friends, a Muslim board member, a Muslim Generation Harvest member, and Muslim members of our food council. And I brought them together and said, what should we do? What can we do? And so 4 or 5 years ago, we had our first iftar fundraising dinner. With the input of that community, we're able to raise $50,000 to purchase halal meat that we were able to get to families before the end of Ramadan. And it had a huge impact both on growing internally, City Harvest's focus on halal community, but also helped us diversify our fundraising base because we got a lot of new people who were coming to the table to help City Harvest, who before knew that we were doing important work in feeding all of New Yorkers who are hungry, but really honing in on some of those specific communities can really help to kind of coalesce and bring communities together to have them not only wanting to continue support you, but support you at a higher level if they know that their resources are going to something that they specifically care about. And so 5 years later, we're still continuing with an annual event during Ramadan. We've been increasing the amount of food that we're sending to halal serving agencies all around the city. And we have a great, fantastic community.
That's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing, Ryan. Definitely concepts of trust and thought partnership and, community-centric really stand out in terms of building that community. Beth, you mentioned that getting the Tiffany Circle going took a long time to get it to where it is today. So what have you learned about sustaining giving circles over time?
Yeah, there will always be ebbs and flows, and points in time when our membership is up, engagement is high, and points in time when it's not so much. Retention and growth is always our goal, but this many years in, many of those original Tiffany Circle champions are no longer with us. We've needed to continually cultivate and develop that next generation of internal leaders and champions within the circle. There are, of course, a lot of components to retention and growth, but two things that are really top of mind for us when it comes to sustaining is connection to the mission and connection with one another. And connection to the mission doesn't always, or doesn't only need to mean showing the need. Certainly showing the need is important. Helping folks get connected directly with the mission through volunteer opportunities and storytelling is important, but it also means showing impact. And that can sometimes be harder to do. It's not always easy to show impact. Joy was talking earlier about communication and transparency, and would certainly agree that that is key to building trust and to maintaining retention. So we try to show impact through, well, in a variety of ways, through a regular e-newsletter that communicates out on results of certain campaigns, or, shows great photos and tells stories about what's happening on the ground. We try to do that through some regular calls and updates from senior leadership, and through compelling storytelling, ideally from those who've been recipients of our services and can really speak directly to what they have experienced as a result of the generosity and the advocacy of this group. So that's one piece. In terms of connections to one another, we found that fostering those social connections is really key to our attention as well, because again, it's those ties bond members together beyond staff turnover, leadership changes, etc. So having in-person activities at the local network, things that bring folks together, whether they be hands-on mission activities, kind of more educational speaker series types of events, but something that does foster those relationships with one another and gives folks a reason to come together, have been really important for us. Every other year, we have a national in-person Tiffany Circle gathering. It was last week in DC, so I feel like I'm still recovering. So this was an in-person gathering of nearly 400 of our members who came together for a full weekend of engagement. It was incredibly inspiring, but it certainly doesn't need to be on that scale, right? Like any kind of regular opportunity to come together to help maintain those social connections as a group, and underscore kind of the unifying themes and shared passions, whether that's at somebody's office, at someone's home, helping to build that community and share impact are both key for us.
Amazing. I know that the engagement opportunities is kind of top of mind for people, so I appreciate you sharing all of the ways that you're building that connection to each other beyond just the mission. Back to Jessica and Joy. I know that I believe, Joy, you've mentioned the 5 T's a few times. So we hear from donors often that they want to contribute beyond just treasure. So I'm curious to hear from you all. What kind of experiences or opportunities have you found most valuable? And then where would you recommend that nonprofits spend less time and resources in engaging their donors? I'd say whoever,
Oh.
Joy, you can go for it.
I would say, yes, I've talked about the T's. And at the end of the day, it's the value is, yes, we know that the check is important, but the true value is when philanthropy actually does its thing, is the love of humankind. So we show that through the time and the talent, the truths and the testimonies. And when the donor is able to bring that to the table, it really just for lack of a better word, it makes you more sticky with the organization. It makes you be more connected to that organization. Money can fund the programs, but people move the movement. And when we combine those things, we can have a sustainable and a relationship for the long haul. So that's really is effective, because you don't want to just be a check passer outer. Or let me say that I don't want to be a check passer outer. Maybe, I mean, you can play your position however you want to, but for if you want to do something beyond the treasure, that's a oftentimes something that you can look at, that you don't have to literally just always come bearing the money. And then also, what can nonprofits do a little differently? Right now, I know it's very hard. I know I'm getting requests every day, like, "Hey, can you?" We're struggling. It's a interesting climate right now, but that stewardship, as opposed to just over soliciting, being building that relationship. Relationships are key, and they really do matter. Engagement should be something that we are having a partnership with. We're not looking for perfection. We're looking to partner, right? So if you were perfect, you wouldn't even need us, right? So you don't have to over report. Just give me some truth telling stories, right? So all right, people say, "Oh, give me some stories." Give me your impact. Give me your truth. Like, what happened? How did you affect the community? How can I be of service? One of the questions that we often ask is, what can we do? How can we help? Community knows what community needs. Ryan spoke about that a little earlier, but it is true. So you can tell me what you need, and I might be able to help or get the partners in the giving circle or our friends to be able to help you with that. So you don't have to go in and make everything perfect, because we're not looking for perfection. We're looking to see where you need help and how we can be of service to partner with you. And also making sure that you spend a lot of times I see nonprofits spend a lot of times spinning their wheels to get everything just tidied up for the donor or the non the foundation. If you keep it real, I think you build those authentic relationships, and it can go both ways. So I think that's what I would suggest or recommend to nonprofits.
Great. I appreciate just the themes of partnership and authenticity throughout this conversation. Jessica, anything you would add around, valuable experiences?
I think anything that connects them more to the mission. So making sure that the opportunity educates and connects them closer to why they gave in the first place. As far as what to stop doing, um, some nonprofits have natural ways for volunteers to help, and very robust ways, and others, especially with some vulnerable populations, they might not be able to open their doors in the same way and allow people into their mission. So I think it really is, be realistic with what you need. Don't create something that doesn't fit into what you can actually deliver on, because that volunteer experience needs to be, like you said, it needs to be authentic. It needs to bring you closer to the mission. And people want to know what you actually need. So don't create something that, just to satisfy the donors, because limited resources really don't allow that. And it's not going to be a positive experience for everyone. So just have the conversations, build that trust, like Joy said.
Absolutely. Yeah. Avoiding the mission creep. I feel like that, like having authentic partnerships is hopefully going to prevent that from happening. Great. So we are going to transition to some Q&A. Our first question is, I am in a community giving circle and it is just about funding. I would love to see us do more together and in serving the nonprofits outside of our quarterly giving. Any advice on how I can ask the leaders of the circle if we can try to incorporate more of this? So I might direct this to Joy or Jessica and see if you all have any thoughts on how to navigate that.
Um, I would say just ask. I would say, I mean, you're part of the giving circle. I don't know the giving circle, but from a hierarchy standpoint, I mean, it's our members ask us for what they need. They're part of it. We all give the same amount. We all give our time. Um, I think that, just keep pushing the conversation, talk to other members, and look at the nonprofits you're supporting. What might be some things that they need? Make that suggestion. Maybe if there's more of a direction, if you're coming with a solution, I'm not saying talk to the nonprofits directly, but if you look at ways that the giving circle could be more involved and then go to the quote unquote leadership with that, they might be easier for them to put together, or tell them you want to volunteer to at your giving circle to lead the volunteer efforts with the nonprofits. Because that is the one thing I'll say, that because everybody's a volunteer, it helps if you come with a solution sometimes, or at least a direction, or offer to give your time to help solve the problem, even at the giving circle level.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts, Joy?
I would ditto all of that. Another thing I would say is, maybe they're not aware that other people are doing that time, talent, treasure thing. So as we talked about, the Giving Circle community is huge. There's a whole directory of people all over the world that are doing the things. And so as you're talking about how you want to volunteer, because that's also a leader might be like, look, I don't have time to do this. So maybe they need that for you to step up. But you also can say, hey, and look at this model, and this circle did this and this did that, and they had great they were able to be sustainable, they were able to get multi-year or get some more collaboration. You can share some stories that other circles have experienced, and that might also help.
Amazing. Thanks, Joy. Our next question is, do you have any suggestions around branding a general operating support focused giving circle? So this is like internal at a nonprofit. These are the funds that they need most and aren't as exciting as the program specific funds. Any thoughts on that?
Well, we give unrestricted funds, right? And so it goes to general funds. It goes to keep the lights on. It goes for whatever they need to make happen. And that's just part of the beginning of, we know that, there are a lot of grants that are very specific. And so we wanted to be very intentional and say, hey, what do you need? Do what you need to make sure that you can continue to get the solutions for the community that you're trying to serve. So I mean, I think you could be very, very specific and say, hey, we're going to do general, and you can just do it like that.
Yeah, we're the same.
All nonprofits. Thank you, Joy, for that approach.
And I think that's where the trust and education comes into it, because we're the same. We offer unrestricted giving. And it can be hard because we will have members that join and say, but then we don't know where it goes. And it's that constant education and conversation and building that trust with the nonprofits. But don't not do it. If that's what you need, then you have to keep telling them, the donors that's what you need, and they'll get there with you when you have that relationship.
I'll share along those same lines that for us, coming from a nonprofit and thinking internally, we position those unrestricted funds as our where it's needed most bucket. So we really communicate, when we're talking about unrestricted donations, we're selling the entirety of our mission and the fact that those dollars will be directed to the most important need in any given moment, which could be, one of many things. But we really do try to communicate around unrestricted funds by connecting them to kind of the urgency of the need for funds that we can redirect in a very nimble and fluid way, and how important it is for us to have partners, philanthropic partners, who prioritize that kind of trust-based giving.
Love that framing. Ryan, I saw you come off mute. Anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has said a lot of the same things, but I think one thing is to find other ways to package your general operating in a way that highlights maybe some of the things that you do that are community specific, but at the same time asking for those funds in an unrestricted manner. So for example, a lot of people come to City Harvest and say, hey, like I want to feed kids. What can I do to feed children? Well, at any of the places, food pantries, soup kitchens, mobile markets, community distributions where we're giving children or we're giving food, the families that pick those up include a lot of families with children. That food is going to children. It's not a specific program. But again, our food rescue and delivery work is our general operating support work. It's our bread and butter. but it does impact and help to feed children. So I think it's just part of how you communicate and articulate your request and your proposal and share stories about how their general operating support does do all of these things, similar to what Beth was sharing.
Couldn't agree more. I feel like communications and education is the real theme there. And Jessica, to what you said, like, don't not do it. And to our earlier point, like, the right donors are out there that get it or are prime for the education that want to show up and support in that way. Next question is, we know that data drives our work as fundraisers in so many ways. In your experience, how can collective giving data contribute to getting to know your donors better? Any thoughts on that?
So there's a big report on collective giving. The Dorothy, I'm gonna mess it up. So there is a report on collective giving that just came out last year, and it talked about how the millions of dollars that have been given out, and how donors come. So you can see the everyday people, you can see the Henrys, the high wealth, high earning individuals, not rich yet, individuals. You can see all the people that are doing this, that are coming together. So there is data out there, because the world of collective giving is getting bigger and bigger. More people are doing more reports on it. So I think that sharing that is important. I think that also, connecting them with resources, right? There is a whole network, Philanthropy Together, that was definitely Giving Circle networks came together and formed this bigger entity called Philanthropy Together to help support giving circles and giving collectives, to be able to find out more information, to be able to push the agenda to make sure that the world comes together and, saves the world together, because we are we get. And so I think that, sharing and exposing the donors to that, also allowing them to be able to get connected to those types of organizations, so you don't feel like, oh, I'm on this island by myself. I'm here and, nobody else is doing this, because a lot of people are doing it. Like, you may not know it yet. Like, your people are out there. That's what's the base of the conversation. Your people are out there. All you got to do is just, connect the dots to build the community.
Love that, Joy. Ryan or Beth, any thoughts on, have you all leveraged data in your organizations around collective giving?
So I think there's a couple different things. One is that definitely, I think that as we talk about, and just from a fundraising perspective and a moves management perspective, like utilizing wealth data and giving history of individuals to find out, to maybe help identify the people that should be a part of a giving society or giving community, but then also to help identify where people should be in your giving societies. If someone's, we have a lot of people, the number of billionaires who have sent a $25 or $100 check to City Harvest, it will literally blow your mind when you think, wow, that person like just sent us $1,000, but they're worth $5 billion. And so I think, understanding and knowing who your donors are so that you can make the right requests. I mean, I think that's a big play now with direct response and direct mail programs, is that you want to ask people for an amount that is the right amount for them. And I think the more you know about your donors with data can really help support that and have you make better asks to get better results.
Yeah, totally agree. We use that data a lot in identifying appropriate ask amounts, appropriate engagement opportunities, who might be a prime candidate for our legacy society, which is the group of donors who have agreed to support us in their end of life plans, their legacy plans. On kind of a more macro level, we're looking at our internal donor data to help us realize things like the fact that we do need to be recruiting younger women to be a part of this group. So as we look at, kind of the median age of some of to just go back to the Tiffany Circle example, but this extends well beyond that. But, the median age of the donors in this group kind of where they are in terms of their life and their wealth. We know that we need younger members, these young women who are set to inherit a significant amount of money in the great wealth transfer that is beginning. We're looking at demographic details, we're looking at wealth, we're looking at age, all of that data to help us determine kind of our larger strategies for retention and engagement.
Super helpful. Brian, did you have one last thought?
I had one last thought, which is also I encourage everybody, giving circles and nonprofits to collect data. I think that there's a lot of things either in surveying the people that are part of your giving circle, asking what other organizations they support, and to get more information from them. What are their preferences in terms of communications? A great one. I don't want to call it a mistake because it wasn't a mistake, but we did get some feedback when we created one of our giving societies many years ago where, we created this donor packet of information and we had these City Harvest pot holders made and sent them to everybody as a thank you. And we did get at least half a dozen people that reached out to us and said, look, I don't want you to spend my donation dollars on this stuff. Please don't send me anything. And so that's information that we track about our donors. And so I don't send printed mail or, tchotchkes to people that have said that they don't want it. And again, as I said earlier, really engage your donors and ask them the questions before you do it. It would be terrible if you spent money to create a thank you gift or something and send it to a donor and have them be offended or upset by it. So I think asking the donors more information and then tracking that information and data is super critical.
Couldn't agree more. And thank you all for these great insights and recommendations and for the thoughtful questions that you all submitted. With our last few minutes, just want to do one more final question to our panelists to wrap up. So in one sentence, what is the biggest takeaway that you would like people to walk away with? So Jessica, I'll start with you.
I think that sometimes it's hard for nonprofits to be truthful with donors because of the power dynamic. And I would say be truthful with donors in a way of what you need, not like they're hiding information, but it's hard to say, this is what I really need. This is how you can really impact. But tell them what you need. They will show up for it. They want to hear it. So be forthcoming with what it is how they can help.
Absolutely. Joy?
Because collective giving is my jam, I'm going to say that collective giving is an invitation. It's an invitation for you to see yourself as a philanthropist, for you to move beyond the transactional to transformative, and for you to do it hand in hand with your community and the community that you want to serve.
Love that. Thank you. Brian?
As a fundraising professional, my motto always is ask, ask, ask. You have to ask people to give if you want them to give. But I think even more than that, as I've stressed today, really talk to the donors and engage the ones that are there. Ask them questions, ask them for information, ask them for their input and thoughts, because they may have the answers that you're looking for.
That's great. Thanks, Ryan. All right, Beth, round us out.
My sentence would be engagement equals retention.
Love that.
Involved with the mission.
Short and sweet. Thank you so much. Well, first, I want to thank you so much to our wonderful panelists for joining us today and all of your really insightful, stories and advice for collective giving. And thank you to everyone that joined today. There's information in the chat for future events. So thank you so much for joining today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, everybody.